Good afternoon from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. It's Friday the 7th of November 2025 and it's 1:33 p.m. It's been a beautiful day so far here at Holland Park, Brisbane, or my Sacred Space home and garden. My gardenia is blooming and the orchids are blooming and I'm blooming, although I'm a bit tired. But I worked on my very first commissioned by my friend Belinda Daniels. I worked on that last evening and got started on it. Lovely pendant with a lovely stone that she supplied. So I'm excited about that. I've got to solder the bezel edging down onto the back plate. I was going to do that today, but I had to rush out to get a few bits and bobs, so I might do it tomorrow. See how I go. I could always do it later this evening before I go dancing. I'll see how I feel. Sometimes I get these mad, almost manic type urges to do things, and it can happen very spontaneously, and I've got to go with the flow. So last night when I was working on it was one of those frenetic energy bursts. So it's a good time to do things when you're feeling motivated and energized and powerful. So it's going to be lovely when it's finished. I hope it is. I'm always scared, and especially since this is, not something that I'm risking. It's not my stone, and my friends put trust in me to create something nice, and I'm scared to fail, to be honest. But I'm sure she'll love it when it's done. I've already made the edging to go around the bezel. I twisted wire and soldered that, and then I had a bit of trouble fitting it, so I had to fiddle about with it this morning. So I have been working on it. I'm not skiving off, but I'm just doing it bit by bit. I've got to do it when I'm feeling upbeat and positive and confident, otherwise things go wrong and then I get terribly upset and lose my confidence and don't do anything for weeks or months. So I don't want that to happen again. It's quite easy for me to get knocked off my perch with my hypersensitivity and trauma issues, and when you're making something for someone else, you want it to be excellent. So might not be perfect though, because it's a handmade item, but my friend knows that. She knows I make them by hand, so can't always get perfect, but I want it to be special for her, because she said she wanted me to make it particularly, which is lovely. Anyway, we're out here with the birdie boys and they're happy in the garden and I'm happy in the garden, and we'll carry on with reading Elliot Perlman's 7 Types of Ambiguity, Part 5, Chapter 4. On Alex's advice, I had retained the services of a Ms. Gina Sirkin, a criminal barrister of some 12 years' experience, who was what people in her world called a senior junior. I've never heard of such a thing. Oh well, there you go. He said she was very bright, thorough and good in court, but not too senior to be unavailable for legal aid work. He knew her before this, perhaps from other problem patients. I wasn't sure. Since I didn't have any experience in this sort of thing and no one was rushing to offer me help or to recommend anyone else. I took his advice. She came to see me at the Melbourne Assessment Prison in Spencer Street immediately after he called her and began to work on my bail application. She warned me that the media frenzy, tacitly linking me to every child that had ever gone missing, coupled with the general upsurge in publicity concerning crimes in which children were the victims, had made what should have been an excellent chance of getting bail very doubtful. I was shaken by this. It wasn't what I had expected. Nothing was. I had expected to see Anna. I hadn't expected the police. I hadn't expected to be charged, and once I had been charged, I'd thought bail would be little more than a formality. Why should the prosecution even oppose it? I didn't have a criminal record. I wasn't a danger to anybody. But the police and the prosecutor thought differently. Everybody seemed to know more about the procedure, the protocol, and the grimness of my circumstances. Can't get that to sit straight. I wonder why. Tuck it down my cleavage, see what it does there. Ah, yes. Gravity is a thing, people of Earth. Gravity. Right. When Gina told me to be prepared to lose the bail application, I somehow managed to convince myself that she was in some way trying to make a likely successful outcome look even better. I thought that perhaps she was marketing herself for future work. If I thought she'd pulled me out of the fire, then I'd be more likely to use her in the event that the charges weren't dropped. Dear Goddess, you're such good birdies, aren't you? Just sit listening to me reading stories. Happy little birdie boy. Happy little Bo. Kenny's a happy boy too. Yes, he is. If I was stupid enough to take Sam, I was definitely stupid enough to believe nearly anything I needed to believe in order to keep going. A guy in the same cell who'd been arrested for dealing wanted to talk. He looked like he knew the ropes. We spoke fairly frankly, and he seemed to think I didn't have anything to worry about. It began like nearly all prison conversations with, "What are you in here for?" It's often asked in a threatening tone, the answer being just one of the variables taken into account when determining your position in the food chain. But this man, an experienced trader in almost everything prohibited, seemed rather calm, and his demeanour helped me to relax a little. It wasn't so much what he said, but his manner of saying it that suggested that the criminal justice system was just another branch of government bureaucracy. With experience, or better still, sound advice, it could be negotiated until it was a mere annoyance. He was comforting in his way. Without confessing to anything in dispute, I did admit to him that this was my first time in trouble with the police, that I'd never been arrested before, and that I was having trouble believing I was there. In the course of my half-delirious rambling, I told him, quite incredibly, all about Anna and about her mistaken marriage to Joe. I told him how much I loved her and asked him if he had anyone. I don't remember what he answered because I was too busy telling him how ashamed I was to be there, that this wasn't me, that I wanted to start again, rewind my life. I told him that I just wanted to disappear. He would have been forgiving for thinking I was high. Maybe that is a way of putting it, of getting Alex to understand what it is like. You don't need to be seeing someone to be in love with her. You can have lost touch with her. She can have hurt you, even inexplicably. If you ever felt that you really knew her and that it was what you knew that you loved, and if you remember what it was you once knew, why is it so crazy to retain that love still? Chapter 5. We were in a small cafe at the end of Glen Huntly Road opposite the beach. The sky was grey and sombre, and I had just made her laugh. An involuntary convulsion had gripped her body the way it would sometimes when she laughed, and her breasts had leapt a little, and my mood with them. Not knowing any other way of going about it, I pulled out a small wrapped package from my coat pocket. "What's this?" she said, by which time my mouth was dry. "I don't remember any more. I found it on the ground. You may as well open it." It was a simple bracelet of linked silver, a series of Möbius strips. "Simon, it's beautiful." "I hope you like it. It's very simple." "Oh, I do," she said, putting it around her wrist. "Really? I designed it myself." "You didn't." "Of course I didn't," I said, but by now she had found and was unfolding the poem I had at the bottom of the box. "What's this?" she said. It was Shakespeare's "Let me not to the marriage of true minds," and she read it to herself except the last 4 lines, which she read out aloud. "Love alters not with his brief hours and weeks, but bears it out even to the edge of doom. If this be error and upon me proved, I never writ, nor no man ever loved." Being buzzed by, I think it's a wasp. Just going to sit still for a moment till he gets over his fascination with the Mamati. Right. Doesn't take long with wasps. They usually quickly, their fascinations are quickly satisfied and on they go. You kind of have to laugh. I knew the prosecution. No, never mind. Stop it, Tanya. I knew the prosecution was going to call detectives Stasik and Threlfall in opposing my bail application. I was ready for that. But when they mentioned the name Frederick Zwier, I had no idea who they were talking about. Even as he was sworn, I thought that the face might be familiar, but I really couldn't place him. He gave his full name and a prison address. He was the dealer who had shared a cell with me at the Melbourne Assessment Prison. He told the magistrate that on a certain day he shared a cell with the applicant, as he knew to call me, and that he found me keen to engage him in various conversations in which I did most of the talking. He said that I had confessed to stealing the child, and that, expecting to be granted bail, I was planning to abscond as soon as I could. Gina Sirkin had me wearing a suit and tie. I sat in the dock, clutching at my collar, inserting the finger of one hand between it and my neck. Gina turned around to face me briefly and saw me shake my head to damn this man to hell. The police had bugged our cell. He had been placed there deliberately to get me talking. They had it all on tape. The prosecution had not planned to play it unless Mr. Zwier's evidence was contested. He was the man who found the criminal justice system just another branch of government bureaucracy, ubiquitous in his line of work, but a mere annoyance. We got permission for Gina to seek instructions from me. "He's lying," I whispered to her in fury. "Was he in the cell with you?" "Yes, but..." "Did you talk to him?" "Yes, but..." "Simon, is there anything you didn't tell me, but now wish you had?" "Gina, he's fucking lying. I didn't say any of that. I didn't confess to anything. Can you make them play the tape?" "Are you sure I should?" "Gina, for Christ's sake, you have to believe me. I want to be clear on this. Your instructions are for me to get them to play the tape to the magistrate." "Yes, of course. What's on it? What did you say to him?" "I don't know. Nothing important. We just talked. I told him that I'd never been in trouble before, that I felt sick about it. I didn't confess to anything. I haven't done anything to confess to." "Simon, I appreciate your instructions, but we've no reason to believe Anna Geraghty is going to change her story. It'd be your word against hers, and now there's this tape. There's nothing on the tape. I didn't say anything, nothing incriminating." Gina had them play the tape. Then she sought a short adjournment before putting Zwier through his paces. Alex was right. She was good in court. "Mr. Zwier, would you tell the court where you live?" "Do I have to?" "You don't want to?" "Not really." "Why not?" "Well, it's not relevant." "Its relevance may not be obvious to you immediately, Mr. Zwier, but I'll ask you to bear with me and answer the question." I'd rather not." "And that's because you don't feel comfortable with people knowing where you live, isn't it?" "Well, I don't know who all these people are," he said, gesturing to the public gallery. "Mr. Zwier, you think you have good reason to be cautious about people knowing where you live, don't you?" "I don't know." "More reason to be cautious than the average person?" "I don't know. What's average?" He smirked. "Mrs. Sirkin," the magistrate interrupted, "do you know where you're going with this?" "Yes, Your Worship." "Do you think you could take us there a little faster?" "Yes, Your Worship." Mr. Sphere, you know Anne-Marie Bellamy, don't you? Not very well. But you know who she is, don't you? Hardly. But you know her well enough to have slept with her, don't you? Yes, like I said, I don't know her very well. Not very well. Not well enough for her to consent to sleeping with you. No, that's not true. She consented. Did she consent before or after you put something in her drink at the Amazon nightclub? I didn't put anything in her drink, but the police think you did, don't they? I don't know what they think, he said dismissively. Mr. Sphere, 24 hours before you had the taped conversation with Mr. Haywood in the cells at the Melbourne Assessment Prison, you were charged with administering a drug for the purposes of sexual penetration pursuant to Section 53 of the Crimes Act. Yes. And you were also charged, pursuant to Section 19, with administering a substance capable of interfering substantially with the bodily functions of another, weren't you? She said she was 18. Did she volunteer that, or did you ask her before you drugged her? Objection! Sir, Mr. Sphere is not on trial here, the prosecutor protested. No, he isn't, Your Worship, but his credibility is, Gina answered. Try not to get into an argument with the witness, Miss Sirkin, the magistrate said. She said she was 18, but she's 17. What's a year? It shouldn't be a crime, Sphere said. Is that your defence, Mr. Sphere? Gina asked. I don't have to answer that. You were also charged pursuant to Section 71 of the Drugs, Poisons and Controlled Substances Act with trafficking in a drug of dependence, weren't you? I don't know. Too many charges to remember, aren't there, Mr. Sphere? They're not important. All those charges, not important? Not important to you, Mr. Sphere? They've dropped them. Are you telling the court the police have dropped the charges against you? Most of them, yes. That must make you feel very kindly disposed to the police, does it? They should have dropped all of them, but they haven't, have they? What? The police haven't dropped all the charges against you, have they? No. You're still facing the charge of sexual penetration of a 16 or 17-year-old child, aren't you? Yes. Well, perhaps they're not quite finished with you, Mr. Sphere. They'd better be. I wonder if you can help me get the timing of all this straight, Mr. Sphere. You met Anne-Marie Bellamy on the Friday night at the Amazon nightclub, right? Yep. You slept with her that night, right? Yep. You were charged with everything I just mentioned late the next morning, weren't you? Yes. About 36 hours later, you found yourself sharing a cell with the applicant in the Melbourne Assessment Prison. Yes, that's right. Whilst there, you have various conversations with him, which the police have on tape. Yes. Sometime after that, many of the charges against you are dropped. Yes. Some of the more serious ones, too. As I said, they should have all been dropped. They dropped trafficking in a drug of dependence, didn't they? Yes, they did. That's a good one to have dropped, isn't it? Yes, it is. Because a second conviction for that is likely to lead to some serious time inside, isn't it? Yes. And you've been convicted of that before, haven't you? Long time ago, Your Worship. Mr. Sphere, Gina continued, Was that the time you were charged with perverting the course of public justice, or was that another time? Don't you remember the section for that one, you stuck-up Mr. Sphere? The magistrate interrupted. Please limit your answers to the question put to you. Yes, sorry. Mr. Sphere, you made a deal with the police to try to elicit information from my client, Mr. Simon Haywood, and then to testify against him in return for certain of the charges against you being dropped. Didn't you? No. Are you telling the court that's not what happened? No, that's not what happened. Mr. Sphere, will you have a look at the transcript of the taped conversation between you and Simon Haywood? Yes. I'd like to read it carefully. Sorry, I'd like you to read it carefully. It's amazing how one word can just change a complete meaning in a sentence. You've got to be so careful with your words, people of Earth. Be impeccable with your word. To get them fresh fruit and veg. This is fermented. It's fermented, but you had no intention of eating it anyway, have you, Bo? Little swine. I'll throw it to the turkey will come and clean that up. Goodness me. Right, where were we? I'm very tired today. I might even go and have a nap. Otherwise I won't be able to go dancing tonight. I simply won't have the energy. Just as well I had a lovely dance on Monday. I've just got to go with the energy meridians, people of Earth. It waxes and wanes like the tides. It's always been that way, even in early childhood. Probably, all those early near deaths messed with my energy meridians. But anyway, I'm doing okay. I'm 60 and a half and it's a beautiful day and I'm reading to you, so on we go and on we go. I'd like you to read it carefully. He pretended to read it, but the temptation to demonstrate his contempt and his anger was too strong, and he made a show of letting the pages drop from his hands as he sped through them. Have you read it carefully all the way through? She asked him. Yes, he said, and then added, I was there. Is the transcript accurate? Yes. Can you read aloud to the court those sections of the transcript which you say record the applicant, Simon Haywood, admitting to you that he unlawfully took the child, Samuel Geraghty, and that, if he was granted bail, he intended to abscond? Your Worship, I must object to this, the prosecutor jumped up to announce. Yes, Ms. Serkin, the magistrate said. I would have thought that the witness's opinion, or rather his interpretation of the conversation, is not as important as mine. Wouldn't you agree? Pardon me. Yes, sir, but I have the tape and the transcript, and there seems to be no dispute as to its accuracy. Do you have any further questions for this witness? No, sir. You weren't planning any re-examination of this witness, were you? The magistrate asked the prosecutor, which I took as a good sign. Gina knew better, and thus I was introduced to those legal procedures that are never codified and apparently are never taught. I took the magistrate to be hinting heavily that he did not want to hear any more from Sphere, most probably because Gina had destroyed his credibility by indicating there was a motive for him to lie. I started to congratulate her, but she quickly brought me back down to earth with her expression and then explanation. I have to say, I don't think it's looking good for us, Simon. What are you talking about? You completely destroyed him, so much so that the magistrate didn't want to hear from him anymore, didn't want him re-examined. That's part of what I mean. The purpose of re-examination is to allow the counsel who called the witness to fix up any problems that have arisen in cross-examination. When the court hints that re-examination isn't going to be welcomed, it's like saying, don't worry about cleaning up the mess your witness just made. I'm going to find for you anyway. So don't re-examine. I want to get out of here. They do. They fuck people over like that on a daily basis. It's happened to me in the family courts and with the adult guardian. And it's just vile beyond belief. But Gina, the guy was so obviously disreputable, and there are no confessions on the tape. You heard it. Simon, I know, you're right, but that magistrate is backstage right now writing up the reasons for his decision. He's thinking a lot of different things all at once. He's pissed off with the police for not getting someone better, someone cleaner to verbal you. As a magistrate, he's completely oblivious to the attempt by the media to blame you for every missing child since Mowgli, but as a person, he's reading it, hearing it, watching it. Even if he's not buying into it, he doesn't want to be the one to let the child abductor, good boy Turkey, I knew you'd eat that, as they're portraying you, go free. He doesn't need the letters to the paper, the talkback psychos. He doesn't need the cutting remarks from his colleagues or his wife. But he seemed to like you, I said, bewildered. Oh, he does. He'll probably make a point of coming over to me at the criminal bar dinner in a few weeks to tell me what a good job I did, but he's not going to let you out. She was right. His written decision did not refer to any part of the taped conversation in which I was alleged to have confessed to taking Sam unlawfully, but it did make mention several times of the throwaway line I used to evince shame, namely, I just want to disappear. Thus, out of my own mouth, I became an unacceptable flight risk, and this, plus the community's justifiable concern at recent crimes against children and young persons, led to my application for bail being refused. Chapter 6. I just want to see how long a chapter it is. Okay, that's fine. Chapter 6. The law permits more than one attempt at bail. After I was bashed in the mainstream section of Port Phillip Prison, we tried again, this time in the Supreme Court. The prosecution countered that society's concerned that I not abscond, not intimidate witnesses, and not reoffend, as well as my concern for my own safety following the assault, could be met simply by placing me in the maximum security section of the prison. The court preferred this to what it described as the inherent risk in granting me bail. Hello, little Kermie. And so it was that I came to be moved from the initial police cell at St Kilda to the Melbourne Assessment Prison in Spencer Street, to the mainstream section of Port Phillip in Laverton, and then to the maximum security section there. Gina said it was an outrage, that I shouldn't have been in custody at all, that there was a madness in the air that had infected the court's decision-making. She said we were living through a time when society deemed all child-related offences so heinous that the mere accusation of them was sufficient to reverse the traditional presumption of innocence. Whatever madness was in the air Gina breathed, it was nothing compared to the fear, excrement and disinfectant that was in the air we breathe here. We tried a third time for bail once I'd been moved to the maximum security unit. The move constituted what Gina called the new facts and circumstances we required to try again in the Supreme Court. She ran the argument that I was an unconvicted man, completely without prior convictions, pleading not guilty. A man who had been brutally beaten whilst in the care of the state and who was now being punished by being placed inside a maximum security facility with the worst criminals the jurisdiction had to offer and with an even greater deprivation of freedom. The prosecution argued that this new application should fail on the same grounds as those it had successfully argued in the two previous applications, namely that the move to maximum security, while clearly regrettable, was for my protection. The scrub turkey's up on top of the potting cabinet and he's drinking water, and he honestly acts like he's a pet. Just one of the family, aren't you, boy chick? Happy bird. You're a happy scrub turkey. Sorry, I got interrupted myself halfway through that sentence. The prosecution argued that this new application should fail on the same grounds as those it had successfully argued in the two previous applications, namely that the move to maximum security, while clearly regrettable, was for my protection, and that consequently my interests as well as those of society would be best satisfied by the court denying this third application. The argument completely ignored the reality of life in maximum security and in court, away from the claustrophobia, the cavity searches, the arbitrary abuse, humiliation, the ever-present terror, the systematic degradation, and the random cruelty and violence. It sounded a reasonable argument. It was a successful argument. The law permitted more than one application for bail. It was society that didn't permit their approval. Alex suggested a fourth attempt when one of my fellow inmates within maximum security gave me a month to have $30,000 deposited into a bank account of his choice, or else be beaten to a pulp. Surely, Alex reasoned, this extortion attempt constituted a new fact and circumstance. Gina said it did at law, but there was a risk of trying to use it because it would require me to give evidence of the threat and to identify the prisoner who had made it. If I was denied bail after squealing, I was effectively dead. She would try a fourth time for me if I wanted her to. What did she think I should do? She wouldn't say. It was my decision. Pardon me. What did she think my chances were of getting bail this time? She said I would have to expect denial of the threat, not only by the extortioner himself, but by everyone else, other prisoners, prison officers, and those further up the prison hierarchy. It would be my word against everyone else's. So I should expect to lose? Probably. If that's what she thought all along, Alex, why didn't she just come out and say it? I don't know, Simon. I suppose she, like me, visits you in here, sees your distress, and maybe she couldn't bring herself to advise you not to take an opportunity to try to get out. But if she didn't think it would be successful and that to fail would literally kill me? Simon, what are you suggesting? Believe me, I know this is hell, but you can't start doubting her. You don't doubt her ability, do you? No. Well, you shouldn't doubt her integrity. She still hasn't been paid for the third bail application. Is that what this is about? Money? Simon, listen to yourself. If she advised you to try a fourth time, despite the danger you'd be in if, as is likely, you lost, you'd accuse her of being motivated by money. And if she doesn't advise you to try, you think she's holding back because she still hasn't been paid for the previous application. Either way, she's mercenary. Not entirely. Simon, this is her job. This is how she earns a living. You're not her charity. No, just yours. Right, Alex? I wondered whether he knew why he was coming to see me almost every day. My father had long since stopped paying him. What was in it for him? Why was he so determined to keep me going, to keep me sane? It certainly wasn't doing him any good. But I never asked him. I never asked him why he kept visiting me and bringing me books, why he kept talking to me about my legal situation, about my past, about literature, about the world, about everything that was or had once been important to me. I never asked him why he was acting as my agent, trying to liaise with my father and mother, with Anna, with Angelique, and even with Gina. What if I asked him and he didn't know? It's just that I don't think she believes me. What do you mean? Alex asked. I leaned in and the plastic of my one-piece sky blue uniform exhaled. She thinks I did it, I whispered. You did, he whispered. Don't say that, not here, I continued in an outraged whisper. It wasn't that I had forgotten how crazy it was for me to have taken the little boy. My circumstances reminded me every waking moment that it had been sheer insanity, however brief, to insinuate myself into Anna's life like that, thinking in some vague, ill-conceived way that I was also doing something positive for his son. The logic of it had been to leave her no choice but to save me by telling the world that I was, after nearly 10 years, her lover again, her confidant, her conspirator, confessor, the person she most trusted. So of course I had her permission to do something as uncontroversial as pick her son up from school. In maintaining this line, she would be aborting whatever relationship she had or was about to have with her putative lover, and she would be bringing to an end her sham of a marriage to Joe Geraghty. She would be free to start again. She could reconsider me. However mad this plan was, once I had acted on it, I had no other way out but to persist with it if I wanted to get out of prison. Anna's permission was my only possible defence. I had to hope that she retained enough of a vestige of what she'd once felt for me for it to be less insane for her to go along with what I'd planned than it was for me to act on it in the first place. Alex understood that, having acted irrationally, it was now rational, even essential, to act for all the world as though, as Anna's lover, I'd had her permission to take Sam, and that it was only her second thoughts about ending her marriage and the humiliation of a public admission of the affair that was keeping her from speaking up and freeing me. I had maintained this line all along, to Startzik and Threlfall, to Gina, in fact to anyone who would listen. Alex knew this, and perhaps with a heavy heart he went along with it. But he kept checking, prodding me to make sure I was hanging on to reality. Simon, we're trying to get you out of here, you and I, and we'll do and say what we have to. I can't get you well in here, but let's not forget that you took him without Anna's permission. Yes, but do you think Gina knows? She hasn't said anything. Either way, no. Do you talk to her about me? Of course I have, but do you? Do you talk to her regularly? Well, I do. She wants to know how you are. Do you talk to her about my mental health? Simon, what? She's my lawyer. Only matters affecting my legal situation are of any relevance to her. Simon, do you think I'm betraying your confidence to Gina? I think you're seeing her. You know, I think you're seeing her more than you need to on my account. You think I'm seeing her socially? Yep. Do you think that concerns you? I think that the word concern has more than one meaning. I think that whatever meaning you had in mind, the answer would be the same. Yes. Yes, it concerns me, and I think that by responding with a question, you've answered my question. Simon, I am seeing her. Jesus, I knew it. I don't know why this made me feel the way it did. Afraid, anxious, like someone had hit me in the stomach. I hadn't thought I had any equilibrium left to disturb. I covered my face with my hands and leant forward on the chair. I wanted to vomit. Alex put his hand on my back and began to rub it. Were you seeing her when you recommended her to me? No. Be honest with me, Alex. Was your interest in her the reason you recommended her to me? No. Not even part of it? No. I'd worked with her before, although never as intensely as this. When I contacted her about you, I didn't know she was separated. Separated? Divorced. She's divorced. I'm separated. Does she have kids? 2 like me. Alex, you've got to tell me. What am I to you? Simon, why are you asking me? You lie with her? Really, Simon, that's not your... I don't mean lay. I'm not talking about sex. Look, Alex, you're worried about me losing my mind in here. You're worried I'll lose my grip on reality altogether. You remind me rightly that my defence is a lie. I was not really having a relationship with Anna. No, you were not. I didn't really have permission to take him. No, you did not. Despite that, everything you've done, everything you've said to everyone since the day I called you from the police station has been consistent with that lie. I admit that. But now you have some sort of involvement with Gina. I know you. You would have told her the truth. You would have told her that I'm guilty as charged. She can't act for you if your instructions are to mislead the court. Alex, what does that really mean? If she knows you're guilty, she can't continue to defend you against the charges. But Alex, I said, now looking up from my knees into his eyes and holding both of his hands, you know. I'm very tired. All right, one more chapter. I'm very tired today. I don't know what's wrong with me. I had a terrible dream. I wrote about it on Facebook this morning. It was quite a weird, erotic, semi-erotic dream. And it involved sabotage. And I'm even dreaming of sabotage now. My whole life is just one long run of fucking sabotage. I really feel like there's a giant fucking serpent at my back waiting to just devour me. And well, I've done this rodeo before, so I just have to get back on my horse and keep Mustang quaying as I do. Chapter 7. It was Gina who finally influenced Alex to stop trying to get me to agree to see Angelique again. Alex had been insisting that Angelique couldn't reasonably be blamed for my present situation. If she hadn't called the police, Anna or her husband Joe would have called them sooner or later. In calling them so soon, she had actually helped me by reducing the time Sam was away from his parents. If I was to be found guilty, having had Sam for less than 3 hours wouldn't look so bad when it came to sentencing me. Sound as it was, this argument was never going to get me to see her. The idea of being sentenced at all, even leniently, was and still is an anathema to me, the more so because nobody had been hurt, certainly not Sam, by what I had done. But more than this, I still hadn't completely given up the hope that, if I could just talk to Anna alone, I might yet persuade her to tell them that I'd had her permission to take her son that afternoon. Alex had also appealed to my sense of guilt. I am to Angelique what Anna is to me. Only in Angelique's case it is more warranted. When I thanked him for flattering me, he corrected me sharply. I'm not flattering you, Simon. It's more warranted not because you're a worthier object of affection than Anna is. At least, that's not what I meant, although it's interesting that you interpreted it that way. Your feelings for Anna are based on an idealised version of a relationship you had with her 10 or so years ago. Idealised. You always have to say that, don't you? Is it not enough? Pardon me. Angelique's feelings for you are much more rooted in reality. Alex, how can other people comment on the reality of someone else's subjective feelings? Affections can be more real to someone than anything else in their lives. They can be the only things that keep you going, like religious faith. Simon, don't play dumb with me. She, Angelique, was the only thing keeping you going. She cooked for you, talked to you, walked with you, listened to you. She drank with you, shopped for you. You did most of that too, you know. Simon, she held you, she made love to you. She misses you terribly. How can you punish her like this? It's not consistent with the person you are, the person you want to be. You owe her. The person I want to be is the person who's not in here. You'll forgive me if I'm not at my most giving. Simon, just because she felt more for you than you felt for her doesn't mean it was wrong for her to feel the way she did. It doesn't mean it was crazy. But I suppose it's crazy for me to hold on to feelings for Anna that were once reciprocated. Whether they were reciprocated once is not the point. You've had nothing to do with her for years. You've got no reason to believe they've persisted all this time. She can't have changed that much, not the essence of her. That's what you're counting on, isn't it? Her essential constancy. If she hasn't changed, you're a free man. You're out of prison, this one, and the psychological one you've been in for 10 years. But if she has changed, what then? If instead of being hanged by the neck, you're thrown inside for not giving up hope, you won't say, better I had swung from the end of a rope like a flag. Who is it? The Turkish guy? Nazim Hikmet, is it? Yes. What a fine memory you have. But Hikmet is in prison because of the hope he retains in the world, his country, his people, while you are in prison only because of the hope you retain in Anna as she was. It is indeed a heavy burden you impose on her, and even if she hasn't changed, if the essence of her hasn't changed, what if you simply misremember her? What if you'd had her wrong for all these years? I don't think I have. You hold on to this memory of her the way a religious person holds on to his faith. There's no test for a theist that can displace his faith in God. If God fails, there must be something wrong with the test, or else with the theist's interpretation of the results. It's the same with a political ideologue too, a communist or an evangelical free marketer. It's not ever possible to displace an article of faith. But Alex, I'm testing her now. Simon, she doesn't come to see you. She's failed. No, not yet. she hasn't come to see me. Simon, listen to you. You're unable to design a test that allows her to fail. If I can just get a chance to talk to her, I know she won't leave me to rot in here. And if she does, then she's failed. And if she doesn't ever come to see you, Alex, I've designed the test. You have to help me get her to take it. And Simon, if I can't get her to, you stay in jail, and she still hasn't failed. But just as he ultimately managed to talk me into agreeing to see Angelique another time, so he failed to persuade Anna to visit me even once. He had apparently spoken to her a total of 3 times since the day I took Sam to my house. He assured me that she understood what it was I wanted from her. Despite that, he said, I should be in no doubt that the essence of her envisages herself negotiating her way through the rest of her life in the knowledge of my conviction for the kidnapping of her son. And I'll stop there. I'm very tired today. It's an absolutely exquisite day though. Beautiful day. It's hot but not too hot. And very quiet in the neighbourhood and peaceful and calm and lovely blue skies, and life goes on, people of earth. Blessed be wherever you be in the space-time continuum. Have a great day and a wonderful night. Goodbye from Sacred Space, Titania's realm.